make a ready deck. All unnecessary personnel clear the flight deck and catwalk areas. Those personnel remaining get in a complete flight deck uniform. Get your helmets on, buckle, sleeves rolled down, and goggles down.
Those goggles, will you?
Hey, get them moving. Get them moving. Check the chocks, tie downs, fire bottles, tow bars, and other loose gear back to deck.
Hello, and welcome to the F-14 Tomcat Radio Show. Tomcat on the ball. How about Tomcat ball 6-0? Roger ball.
Hello, and welcome to the official F-14 Tomcat Radio Show, straight out of Grumman, Calverton, where all 712 airframes are built. I'm one of two producers. My name's Lorenzo, and I'm joined by my co-producer, and his name's Aaron. Good evening, sir.
Hey, how's it going?
Good, good. We got a killer show lined up here tonight. It's going to drop some legendary history. I'm watching the elevator going up, not even thinking it's going to hold all of that weight, but it got it up to the deck, and the jet's on the catapult, and
Oh, dude, I'm trying not to nerd out right now and just start manly crying with how awesome this show is going to be.
Right now, we're going to turn the show over to them with their guests, and I'll introduce the guests as well for them. But let's start it off with your host, and he's a radar intercept officer of Fighter Squadron 31, and that's Lieutenant Commander Eric McMullen, call sign Siphon. Good evening.
Hey, what's up, guys?
Also, sitting in as a co-host tonight for Leekster, who's out flying today, is a good squadron mate of his. And before I tell you his name, I just want to tell you real quick, there are very few people on this planet that are going to pull out a whiteboard and sit Captain Snodgrass down in a chair and show him just how you bring an F-14 Tomcat. Top hook. He's humble. We want to welcome him tonight. And that's Lieutenant Pat Casey, Smokehouse.
Thank you, brother. Thank you. So glad to be here. It's an honor.
Yeah, awesome, awesome. Also, we have a Tomcat University host jumping in tonight, and that's Rob Todd, USS America, Catapult 3. Good evening.
Great to be here, guys. It's going to be cool.
Your host, proudly welcome tonight these following guests, and they are simply amazing. And that's SUEDE from Fighter Squadron 32. Good evening.
Good evening. Great to be here.
Also, we're bringing for the first time the aspect of air traffic control tonight into the show, something we've never done before. And it's all part of bringing the plane aboard and talking with the boat. And proudly tonight, we have Blain, Miesterhands.
What's up, man? How you guys doing? Glad to be here.
Yeah, he's done some great stuff. His resume includes a George Washington, Cecil Field. He's been out to Iceland, so we're definitely looking forward to that tonight. Also, multi-generation Grumman family and VF-11 plane captain, Red Ripper, world-famous Red Ripper. I got to open. And that's Ray Borrelli, Senior. Good evening.
Good evening, guys.
Siphon, Smokehouse, we're pointing to the bow. Actually, Rob, give us the point to the bow. There it is.
Bow point.
Ready? Look at me. 2 fingers.
There we go.
Yeah, run it up.
Let's do it. All right. Well, hey, guys. We are super psyched to have you guys aboard today. Appreciate your time. We're probably going to keep this under 5 hours. So, settle in, make sure you got your best beverage in hand. We're doing video for the first time today. So this will be the first time we've got our own beverages. I've got my last Tomcat cruise mug. I got to show it off.
Nice.
Very last Tomcat cruise. And we're gonna cover back a little ways too. But we're gonna start with SUEDE. SUEDE and I met in officer candidate school. He was about 2 months ahead of me, something like that. I don't remember.
Yeah, I think I was just 2 classes ahead of you. Yep.
Yeah, not a lot. And our careers have followed and intertwined a lot. And it's pretty sweet to have you with us today. So we just want to welcome you and kind of ask you I know the story. Don't pretend I don't know the story. Talk to Smokehouse here. What brought you to flying in the Navy? Why did you go to officer candidate school with a Rio, well, not Rio, but an NFO slot?
Yeah. Yeah, you know too many of the stories, so let's keep it at that. So, yeah, it started off when I was about 10 years old. My grandfather gave me a prospectus from Grumman. Not too many 10-year-olds are too interested in a prospectus, and I wasn't looking to invest. But the reason he gave it to me is it had this picture of this relatively new aircraft called the F-14 Tomcat, and I fell in love with it the first second I saw it, and I was like, that's what I want to do when I grow up. And that became a dream that I kind of chased for a little bit, then gave up on. And I was in grad school. I couldn't find a job at the time, trying to do some aerospace stuff. So, what else are you going to do? Just stay in school. I kind of started to figure that out. And I was at grad school, had a couple people that were military. One was Tim Copra, captain at the time. He's now retired. Colonel Tim Copra of NASA Astronaut Corps, great dude. Yeah. And he encouraged me to join the military. I went and worked for the FAA for a little bit, and everybody that worked at the FAA were prior military aviator types. And I was in the FAA flying club, finally got my pilot's license out of there. And just hearing them tell stories, I was like, I got to do it. So I flew down to the recruiter in Richmond, Virginia, and said, I'm here to fly F-14s. And she laughed and said, take a number, sit down next to Tom there. And I I actually had to get an age waiver too, because after grad school and working for a little bit, so got the age waiver and got accepted into officer candidate school for a flight slot. There we go.
I've forgotten your recruiter was in Richmond, because you're not from Virginia. I am. We probably had the same recruiter, actually. I drove down to Richmond. We probably had the same officer recruiter there.
Yeah.
Surprised.
Yeah.
So officer candidate school, good best 3 months of your life, right? So
yeah, that was wild. I just remember first day there, I was checked in, feeling pretty good, feeling a little froggy, and then chief comes up, starts yelling at you, and just not too long into that, I was like, what did I get myself into? That was before I met the drill instructor. They were nice to us. They gave us a few days to kind of ease into it, and then introduced us to our drill instructor. And did you have Crouch?
I had Gunny Crouch, yeah.
Yeah, I thought you did. He hated my class.
Yeah, he did.
We got special treatment from him. But, yeah, we had Gunny Sergeant Seals, and yeah, I remember when they introduced it, like they all come rolling in at once and just storm in, and they freak you out. And I remember that they put you to bed, and they messed with the clocks there. You don't learn that until you become towards the end, but they messed with the clocks. And I remember after that first day of just meeting the drill instructor, I somehow managed to get off into sleep a little bit, and I'm having a dream that there's this alligator with a Smokey the Bear hat on chasing me and trying to eat me.
About right, actually. It's not far from the truth.
Yeah, so that was my fitful night of non-sleep, and then they come in, banging things and screaming and yelling, and I think we got up at, I don't know what time it was, 3 a.m. or something. They told us it was 6.
Yeah, the clocks.
Oh, that's really funny, because until this very moment, I never knew they messed with the clocks. Yeah,
it explains a lot, doesn't it?
Okay, yeah. So day one, they shaved your head, and you had more hair on your chin by the end of the day than you did on the top of your head, in my case. And I remember just barely falling asleep, and the next thing I know, there are garbage cans coming all down the walls, and they're saying, get up, get up, get up, and they take everybody over to get their haircuts. And the first guy DOR'd. I mean, we had 3 guys DOR at haircuts. Yeah. He brought the ugliest guy up, shaved his head, bent him over in front of the class, and said, look at this. This will be you if you don't DOR now. We had 3 guys that said, I quit. I'm done.
Yeah. And for those listening, by the way, DOR is drop on request, which is synonymous with I quit.
I quit. It's ringing the seal bell.
Gunny Seals, I recall, he was a mind game player. He was one of the lots of them are mind game players, but he was one of them. So you made it through officer candidate school, marched across the street to AOC, not AOCS, API.
API, yeah.
At school's command. Did you have much of a wait before you went into that?
Not really. Some people were waiting for months, and folks were trying to get like their jump wings. So they would occasionally let you go to Georgia and do that. And so I was like, yeah, I'd like to do that. And they stopped doing that. I think too many people hurt themselves before they even started flight training. So they kind of turned that off. So I got stashed for just a tiny bit and then classed up pretty quick for API.
Good deal.
What is API? I'm sorry.
They made that into kind of because AOCS became OCS. They took a lot of the aviation courses out of it. So that was a time to kind of catch you up on that. So it was aviation pre-flight indoctrination.
So it was like academics or a lot of academics.
Yeah, it was some academics like power plants and propulsion stuff and aerodynamics and
plus most mornings were in the swim tank, so getting your swim qual.
That's right. Yeah.
And I think we were still doing obstacle course back then too.
Yeah, we did the obstacle course.
Yeah.
What year was that, Suede?
That would have been 96. Yeah, fall in 96.
Yeah, you graduated what, December?
October. Yeah, it was October. 0197 class.
There you go. Okay.
Yeah.
I went to air school in Pensacola in 90. So.
Wow.
In 90. Oh wow, yeah. And so those guys were just right across the street from us. And I remember you probably saw the same thing, Suede, but I remember we were doing our crazy stuff on the lawn on the officer candidate school side, and I remember them looking over at us like, "What are those stupid officer candidates doing?"
Yeah, with their poopy helmets. Did you guys have poopy helmets?
Yeah, the chrome domes. They made
the chrome domes. Yeah.
Toss them up in the tree.
And
then they yell at us for losing them.
Yeah.
Right, and saluting squirrels. Yes, exactly.
Yep. Yeah, every corner we had to salute and do a facing movement, and they were like, "And good morning, sir," and salute. And they're like,
"Yeah,
how do you salute the squirrels?"
Yeah.
Rob, I'm sure you were laughing at us.
I was just trying to make it through rescue swimmer school at the time. I wasn't laughing at anybody.
Well, you guys were getting the hard work in the pool and out in the bay, so yeah, good work on you there. Well, so Suede, long before you were Suede, I'm not even actually sure I know the story of your call sign, so we'll get there. I think I've heard it once, but I forget, so it'd be good to hear. You went through primary, intermediates, all in Pensacola, advanced VT-86. You made the cuts in primary. You didn't go off to panel nav. Back then, it was joint undergraduate navigator training, so we had Air Force and Marines in with us. Did you feel like you were pretty much on track to go to Tomcats as you were finishing up, as you going into selection?
So I felt, I did really well at VT10. I did great in primary. I already had my pilot's license, so I felt pretty confident with that. Except one thing, I had a little trouble with spins because when I was practicing for my FAA exam, I was doing power on stalls, and I got myself into a spin and kind of freaked myself out because I was alone looking down at I think it was 60. I was flying over Route 66 there in Virginia, and kind of freaked out a little bit. And fortunately, they still had it in the syllabus. They teach you how to get out of a spin as a civilian. So I was like, oh yeah, it's not hard to get out. So I got out, but it still kind of freaked me out a little bit. So when they wanted us to do spins, I wouldn't let the spin fully develop. I would break out of it. So I got to below spins, but I did well in primary. Got married actually between primary and intermediate.
Perfect timing, really.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was fortunate because I told the wife we might be getting married over the phone. So she was delighted with that prospect. But went into T1s then, so we would go into the Air Force T1. That would be our introduction to jets and doing low level visual nav and radar nav. And I had a little bit of trouble just making that adjustment, I guess, between married life and going jets a lot faster and having to think faster. Had a little bit of trouble, so I was worried. I was definitely worried about my prospects going into that. Got it kind of figured out, and then went to 86 and started flying the T-39 and did pretty well on that. Yeah, so selection day I was still nervous as all get out. Just hoping. The only thing I wanted was F-14s. I would have I love the A6. I thought the A6 mission was pretty awesome, but obviously that wasn't an option for us. So the only thing I wanted was Tomcat. So and just so nervous waiting for selection and at the O Club there and at the Mustang Beach O Club, and they said, called me up and said, you got F-14s. I was like, oh man, that's
Wow.
to hear.
That's awesome.
So Suede, just so I understand, you started out life as a NFO?
I did, yeah.
Oh wow! Tell us about how you made it to pilot training from there.
Well, actually, I didn't. I went. So I had the vision issues. I wasn't 20/20 uncorrected. So even though I had my civilian pilot's license, it was the vision thing. So the NAMI whammy. I tried to get do different things to get vision correction, somewhat naturally, other than the eye surgery, because the eye surgery was new. And we had one guy actually. We had a thing before OCS that you could come down and do the NAMI whammy beforehand, and that kind of guaranteed you a flight slot if you got through it. And this one guy had the laser surgery, which I thought about doing. I didn't. I tried this contact treatment where you put in these hard contacts and they're supposed to remold your eye, and it hurt like the dickens. It didn't work so good. I did get my prescription down a little bit, but I didn't get to 20/20. But anyway, this one guy, they're like, all right, you had the laser surgery, didn't you? And he's like, no, I didn't. We're like, we know you did. And so they said, well, we know you did. And they said, you're out of here. So they sent him home like right away.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, they can.
So you did your career as a Rio then?
I did, yes.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. I see, that shows how smart I am. I thought you were a guy in the front seat. So I can't wait to hear some really good stories about JDAMs and dropping bombs and killing bad guys.
Oh yeah. That was a cool part. Yeah, I really, the F-14 was great. I mean, I knew enough. I still flew off and on, was in various flying clubs, but I just love the crew mentality. In the cockpit, it was one fight, one team, and
nice.
That's what I just love about the community. A lot of the other communities, they definitely, double anchors are treated with second class citizen, but not in the F-14 community. There was mutual respect all the way around. So
absolutely,
that made it just a lot of fun. You learned a lot from each other actually, which was pretty cool.
That is super cool. I used to equate it to if you wanted to know what a Rio's job was, it was like you drive up your driveway at 100 miles an hour with your buddy sitting in the passenger seat, and then you park in the garage. It's like, that's what a Rio has to do.
That's a good analogy.
Yeah.
Especially with the headlights off with some of the pilots I flew with.
Yeah, with some of the pilots, I'm sure it was a little scarier than others. Yeah.
So when you finished up in Pensacola, went off to Oceana, did the RAG there, starting, and I guess probably you would have been about starting in 99-ish.
Was it not like 98, 99? Yeah, it was right around that time frame. So you started to catch up to me because I actually got med down for I had this I can't remember what it was called. I had this sinus infection, and there was like this it was not a tumor, but it was like a thing in my sinus that I sneezed one time and it came out. It was like this, I don't know what it was. I can't remember, but so I had to go and get it removed.
This is like Alien.
So it's okay.
Like Alien.
Yeah, it was crazy. I thought, what in the world? I thought my brains were leaking out.
I'm just having visions of Total Recall when
that's what I was thinking.
That's what I was thinking.
Yeah, it kind of like that. They ended up going through my mouth to get to it. So they, I'm glad they didn't go south to get it, but they pulled the whole thing out, clean out my sinuses. Everything was good. I could clear, but I had to go through like sinus exams where they run this camera up your nose like every other month for a long time. And then NAMI's there, so they had like all their students are like, dude, come check this out. So I got all these put me on display. So I was a lab rat. So they started calling me Tumor. So I was like kindergarten cop, I was like, it's not a tumor.
Not a tumor.
So yeah, that delayed my strike fighter for a little bit. So I rolled back a couple classes, and then finished up, did the T2 thing. That was a lot of fun. And then got stashed there in Skeds. And yeah, you started catching up to me.
Yeah, I did.
Yeah, and then went off to up to Oceana and started at 101.
So the RAG, the VF-101 RAG was around for a few more years. And at that point, I would still say it was still feeling heyday-ish, right? I mean, it was kind of pumping people through, just kind of normal. I mean, the community was in the beginning of shutting down, but not really, right? So
we were full production when I was still going through. So yeah, we were still feeding all the squadrons. None of the squadrons started transitioning yet. It was another year and a half or so, almost 2 years. Yeah, about 2 years before they started transitioning. 14 and 41, I think, were the first ones that back and you know, lost the great fame of flying the Tomcat. So we got a few of their guys, the Rios, I think, from trying to remember who went single seat from those two. Was it 14?
I think it was 14 that went single seat.
Yeah, so yeah, we got a couple of their Rios came over to 32. Great dudes. So that was fun. You know, they were a bit junior, still had some time on their orders. So, yeah, the RAG was still full blown. You know, I think they were adding a little bit more like kind of you know, with the bombing, you know, so we got the Webstet out to El Centro, El Suedo there, and got to experience the Sealy bump. I don't know if that was a thing, but you know, running, seeing if you could get everybody to hit their head off the roof when you hit the Sealy bump. Going to get what do we get? We go get some steak.
Carne asada burritos.
Yeah.
Yes.
Go get that for like when we were wrapping up to have a picnic.
Yeah. I mean, it's a rental van, right? I mean, you know, it's still driving when you turn it back in.
Fastest production van ever. It's a rental.
It's probably the one with the most airtime.
Yeah, and if the shocks were new when you got it, they weren't when you took it back.
Yep.
So tell us, first time, you know, you've been looking forward to flying the Tomcat since that prospectus when you were 11, 10?
Yeah, 10 years old, yeah.
So it had been a long 17-year journey, roughly.
18 years.
Yeah.
By the time I started flying.
What was it like? First time you sat in that actual... You're a B guy, right? So you were B in the RAG, right? So
yeah, in the RAG you do you didn't really select yet. So we're flying A's and B's. So I was an AUG-9 guy basically. So the Rios had just said, hey, you're gonna go AUG-9 or APG. What was it, 71, right? And so yeah, I wanted to do the AUG-9. I wanted to fly that old thing. I didn't know what I was asking for. that thing was a museum piece. Holy,
yeah.
You get in, and especially the A's. Some of the A's that I got in were, I think, older than me, which was saying something. And
nearly, not quite.
Yeah, I just remember the cat panel.
Yeah,
the dress panel was like, you know, this mechanical wheel, this wheel that you turn, and it rotates a mechanical drum that changes your menu system. And you had 4 or 8 buttons, 4 on the left, 4 on the right of this drum, and that's how you could change the functions of what your TID was going to do, and the hand controller if you had to do some different selection things, and then push the button, and that thing was ridiculous. So yeah, getting in that, I was like, wow, this thing's old. A lot of steam gauges. I'm like, all right, that's a true jet. The last true jet I think the Navy really flew, because everything's now a computer. We don't fly jets anymore. We fly computers.
Yes, with thrust. Computers with thrust.
Yes. You know, just getting in it, it was kind of surreal. I remember, you know, just suiting up and just learning how to put on all the gear, you know, a little bit different from the T2s, and you know, trying to figure out how to get those leg straps on for the real.
Yeah, the bottom part there with the G suit.
Yeah, wrap over the G suit.
Yeah,
sucker in, and you know, both of those, your feet got pulled in, so you didn't, you know, lose your legs when you deck. Yeah, that was real. And then, you know, starting it up, the huffer going, and then start cranking the engine.
Yeah.
Whoa, this thing's got some power. And then, yeah, that first taxiing out, and then just that first takeoff was pretty legit. The only thing that was better was I don't know, did they still do it? They had Cat 1 flights. So when you were kind of pretty much done and still hanging out at the RAG, then they would let you go out Cat 1, Cat 1.
I never got to do that, unfortunately.
Yeah, Cat 1.
I never heard about them, but yeah.
Yeah, Cat 1 pilot and a Cat 1 Rio. And, Dad gives us the keys to the jet. And it's like, what do we do? I'm like, whatever we want.
Who's in charge here? Wait a second. I don't know.
That was crazy. We go out to Whiskey 72 and just, we're like, let's do burner turns and let's.
Oh, man. You know what we used to do? We used to find a foreign flagged freighter that was heading back towards England. And we'd say, okay, there's one. And we would drop down about 10 miles behind him and get right down on the water. Just like when we would go by, we would be looking up at the bridge and we would just pull as hard as we could and just go cranking right across the bridge. And it was part of the profile check. And then put it straight up like the burners, start champing out flares and just do an aileron roll straight up. And I always imagined this poor deckhand that was out there trying to paint some stuff, and like the bucket of paint just going everywhere. Yeah, because I worked as a deckhand on a tugboat in college. I just thought that was the most fun thing that we ever got to do.
Well, that's pretty cool. Yeah, I didn't get to do the Cat 1 thing. The first time I ever flew with another JO was out at the Fleet Squadron. So, well, you know what I mean.
Yeah, no, that was pretty epic. It was a night flight, so it was fun. We made a lot of noise. I think. Yeah. Did you come back at this? I'm like, yeah, that was us.
Yeah.
Yep. Squawk was squelched for some reason, and
I don't know. Standby. I don't know how that happened.
New guy. I just forgot to turn that knob again.
Yeah. Well, and a Cat 1 was probably really, really pushing the horses at 450, right? So. It wasn't like a real seasoned carrier brake, I'm sure, but
it wasn't. We were still going pretty fast though, so it was pretty legit.
Cool.
That was a lot of fun. I think that was who was that? I think that flight. I got to look at my logbook and see who that was, but I think he's an astronaut now.
Scott Kelly.
No.
Oh, are you talking about the guy who was in my squadron, VF-31?
Yeah.
Welcome, puking.
Totally drawing a blank on his name right now. I know what you're talking about. Anyway.
Yeah, we've seen each other.
Some smart guy.
Yeah.
He's a good dude.
Yeah.
So who was your first flight with? Do you remember? Not too memorable, I guess.
No, I flew the British guy there, the exchange guy.
Mm-hmm. There was a succession of Tornado exchange guys.
Yeah.
I did a lot of flights with him. He was great. He was a very cool instructor. A little different mentality, little more team player, less like trying to stress you more. I flew a bunch with. Did I fly with Puck? I'm trying to remember if Puck did both. Puck Howe. Yeah. That guy was crazy.
Yep. We'll have him on one of these days too.
Yeah. Oh man. Yeah, he was legendary. Like every time he stood SDO, just every time you walk in the ready room, he would bark something at you, and you're just like, I don't know how to respond. Kept you on your toes. So, I think I knew more of the Rio instructors kind of better. Just you kind of really relied on them to teach you the tricks of the trade, and then prepare you for what the pilot was going to throw at you, and like give me essay. What's going on? Where are they?
So Suede, what carrier did you wind up going to when you went to your fleet tour?
Let's see. Well, it's actually right before. So I was stationed in the. I was going to VF-32. So it was actually when we were down at Key West. Our last couple. Our tactics det down there doing air-to-air BFM. That what a great time in the syllabus. Actually, I got a great story from there. Key West.
Let's hear it.
It's story time.
Yeah, Key Weird. We're staying in the Fly Navy Hotel, and just epic. And we're getting close to the end. And you do kangaroo court at the end of the det. And Blue Lou Shager. I flew a lot with Blue Lou. Great guy. And we had a bunch of hits, and I had kind of a purse slap against them. And so at the kangaroo court, they called me up, and he had me nailed, but I had a great comeback, and I ended up winning that one. And then,
Oh wow.
Oh, come on, let's hear the details. Come on, let's hear it.
it's a little foggy.
No way.
Yeah, it's
Sounds
been a while.
sounds like forced forgetting.
Yeah, it's probably true. But at the end of the night, we did like I think a trivia thing, and it was, they kind of tell you when you get down to Key West that, hey, if you're out and you're doing a little too much, you're on the flight schedule, and you're just not, you shouldn't go in the jet, then you can call a mulligan. You each get one mulligan. It's cool. Like, okay, we'd rather you be safe and just, make the call, and it's going to be a pain, but okay, we'd rather hear it. So we kind of had like this trivia, like our skit was like a trivia thing, and we had a bunch of questions, just random instructors. And one of them was, what was the last thing heard from, I can't remember our class number, in Key West. And, and I think one of the instructors was one of the contestants, and he couldn't answer the question. So then we all just start screaming, mulligan, mulligan, mulligan. And so I was done. I was already done with the syllabus. So I was like, I'm not going in. I got nothing on the flight schedule. And I'm in the queue room, and somebody's banging on the door. Like, they were calling me Stahl at the time, last name Pratt. So what do you expect?
Yeah, of course.
I got stories on the A too.
Yeah, you got to explain. Right? You got to explain that to the crowd that's not, F-14 pilots, because they don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah, so the TF-30 and the A model from Pratt and Whitney was just, and it made it in the first movie. It would cough a lot. I had a lot compressor stalls, and you're like, what is that? The first time it happens, you're like, is that what I think it is? And the pilot's like, yeah.
Yeah.
you're like, stop ham-fisting the throttles, man.
No, just hit the igniter buttons and keep going.
I coughed an engine a couple times in those. BFM, yeah, we'd cough one, and man, that was not fun. But I was called Stall. Stall, get up, and I'm like, I'm not on the flight schedule. I'm not coming in, and they're like, OPSO wants us there now, and I'm like, I'm not feeling so great, but all right. So the whole class comes in. Turns out nobody showed up for first event.
Oh wow!
And I don't know that we planned it necessarily, but holy moly, everyone was like, we meant mulligan, and we told them ahead of time. And OPSO was teed. He's like, we have all the red area. Everyone was here ready to breathe. We got everybody.
Yeah.
And shows up, and that cost us a lot of money. And he was hot. And so when we got back to the RAG after that. Every day we had a different uniform that we had to wear. So one day we had to come in in chokers. He would have us come in. We had to come in and muster the whole class at like 08, even if we had nothing
05. Yeah.
And it was probably 07.
07.
Johnny Cash's. All right, then chokers. Then it was B's. Then it was khakis. And then they started mixing things. Like it was like, our Johnny Cash, our service dress blue pants and our choker white coat.
Wow.
Salt peppers. Wow. You go Marines.
Yeah. So it was something different every day. They harassed us till the end. And it was pretty epic. So they stopped. I don't know. Did they still have the mulligan thing when you went there? Because they had stopped it for a while.
Yeah, I remember being a thing, but I don't remember anyone really using it.
Okay.
I never used it. Let's put it
all
that
right.
way.
So I'm going to go old school on you guys since I'm really old.
Yeah.
So when I was down in Key West and we would do our Key West debts, it was like a badge of honor. Whoever could stay out the latest and drink the most on Duval Street and still make the 0500 or 0700 brief.
Yeah.
And so I remember this one particular flight where had we been stopped by the police on the way in, we probably both would have been taken to jail. But my Rio was breathing oxygen on the taxi out because he said, man, I'm having he said he was acting like he was having G-lock on the taxiway. He was going,
Wow.
Yeah.
I tell you, that was the best thing of the Tomcat was oxygen therapy, man. I love I love that LOX tank.
Yeah. But you couldn't do that now. You couldn't do that now. You'd be long
honestly,
gone.
It wasn't that many years later. So that was what you said, 99 or so is when that was happening, 98, 99. A couple years later, coming home from our penultimate cruise, 2004, we pulled into, coming off, it was a Westpac. So we were coming off the boat. We flew off, depressurized the tires. Oh, wait, no, we didn't even land at San Diego. We went all the way to Albuquerque. We flew off the boat and went to Albuquerque. Spent the night in Albuquerque, depressurized the tires. We're going to go the rest of the way home that night. So, of course, first night back in the United States, the entire squadron went out. Half the squadron did not go home the next morning because of bottle of throttle was not honored.
It was less than 12 feet. You're saying?
Yeah, that's less than 12 feet. He said.
Oh yeah,
because that was the thing. You know, it was what was the real rule? It was it 24 hours and 24 hours bottle to throttle, or was it 8 hours bottle to throttle?
12 hours bottle to throttle.
12 hours bottle to throttle, and then how far was it smoking? So it was like they would always confuse the two. It's like no smoke, no drinking within 8 feet of the aircraft, and no smoking within 12 hours.
I like
that. Oh my gosh!
The community had actually tightened up on that a whole lot in that.
I guess
6 or so years, 5 or 6 years, whatever it was. Seriously, there were 5 of our 12 jets that didn't go home that day.
Wow.
And my wife was pissed.
Another day, you're like, what in the world? Yeah, I remember actually when I got to the RAG, I remember Captain Benson was the CO of Oceana at the time. Great dude. And he came in, he's like, he would tell us, hey, one of the best places you go to learn here is not here at the RAG, but at the O Club. So I expect to see you at the O Club.
Mm-hmm.
And, way different time because he's like,
no
one is going to harass you coming out of the O Club. As base CO, you just, play it smart. If you need to, stay at the club.
Yeah.
And, we'll work it out, but don't, anymore. I know when I got to Lemoore, things had changed. The CO got relieved. He was walking over to the O Club and, I think he was just driving across the street and, the on-base cops got him and nabbed him and gave him a deal.
Oh, wow.
And he's just driving across the street and like, I'm going to get a queue room. And nope, you're done.
Oh, man, that stinks.
Yeah.
So tell us, VF-32, that was the last Tomcat cruise, right?
Let's see. No, I missed their last Tomcat cruise. I was there right after Desert Fox. I got there right after Desert Fox. And that was the one where the XO at the time had sent an email off to some of his buds saying, dude, we just, it was kind of the surprise strike. And it was the first time that the Tomcat LANTIRN pod and LGBs were used. And they did some good work. And he was stoked. He emailed kind of lots of details, no OPSEC in that. But it was an epic email and it got forwarded everywhere. And he had to kind of, when they got back from cruise, he had to go and kind of give a brief to everyone about OPSEC. He said, beware the power of the forward button. Because I think
operational security for those who are uninitiated.
Yeah. So Suede, what were your area of operations when you were actually, using your JDAMs and stuff? Did you actually get to go see action and in Afghanistan and those other places?
Yeah, actually, I sidestepped your question earlier. You asked me what boats I was on. That took me to the RAG, so I want to go back to that because then, I was done, and then the RAG for CQ for the pilots, we got to sit SDO. So I went out. I got to fly off the Kennedy. One of the last times I think it was underway before it was decommissioned. So I went there and then went to 32 and they came back off the Big E mobile Chernobyl, as they affectionately call it.
Yeah, that's hilarious.
That patch was verboten. That became an illegal patch.
Yeah,
it was a UCMJ violation if you were caught wearing it.
Yeah, like a Hook 91 patch.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Not quite that bad, but close.
Yeah.
And so then we got the Truman. So we got the maiden cruise on the Truman.
Oh, very cool.
That was
very
nice,
cool.
Brand new boat.
Yeah, new paint smell and everything, right? No.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, it's kind of new carrier smell.
Yeah,
smells just like JP5 and oil and.
Yeah. It's awesome, and it tastes great in your grape juice.
Yeah, it sure does.
Yeah.
You notice.
Yeah.
So I was on the Truman. So I went. Our first cruise on the Truman took us med cruise. That was pretty awesome, but all our port calls pretty much got canceled. We drove, floated by Italy. We were supposed to stop up near Rome. That got called off. We were supposed to stop in Israel, Haifa, I think, and that got called off. We did stop in Crete, so that was pretty epic. That place is awesome. Amazing food, and I did shore patrol on that one. Oh my goodness!
Oh, tell us a shore patrol story.
Crazy stuff. First off, it's like, you get the OPSEC brief, and then you meet the local law enforcement, so they know who you are, and you're wearing your shore patrol armband anyway. But get to know who they are, what's going on, and part of me is like, well, everyone's gonna be in civilian clothes. How are we gonna know like who to yell at, like who's on the boat, and who do we have to call in for curfew or whatnot? And my first night, it's like, it is so obvious.
Who are the Americans coming off the boat?
Yeah. You just know exactly who's who.
Yeah.
No mistake. So it wasn't hard. You're like, get back to the boat now. We did have a couple. I didn't have to do it, but we did have a couple clamshells. So that's when people are just kind of too much of a wreck. You take two gurneys, and you basically lay the person down and take the other gurney on and put it on top of them and lash them together.
I've been clamshelled before, Suede.
To contain them. Oh my gosh!
Yeah,
you've been clamshelled, Rob.
Oh yes, drunk.
You got clamshelled, Rob?
Drunk and disorderly in Corfu, Greece.
Oh my gosh!
Yeah.
You got clamshelled,
and they hung me upside down. I threw up until I would shut up, and they hung me upside down like that until I stopped moving.
That is quite an honor.
Wow.
Did you get a certificate? Yeah. Did you get a certificate for that?
I almost went to mass for that. My work record was the only thing that saved me on that.
Oh wow.
Oh man.
I was also a legal officer, so I saw a lot of those UCMJ or the captain's calls. The captain man stuff. But we had one guy we had to put him over the edge, so he could do that Technicolor yawn.
Oh yes.
That was fun. We had
the
one
Technicolor yawn. I love it.
So it was a bit messy. Occasionally, we had one guy assaulted the police chief's dog, as it turns out.
Oh,
of all dogs.
Kicked the dog. It was like, dude, not cool. So he almost got left behind. That was like almost an international incident. We're like, dude, not cool. So we let them kind of do what they wanted to him, as far as they threw him in jail. He had to pay a big fine, and then he did get masked. So I used to have the UCMJ memorized, and there was this one. I was like, one of my career goals was to get this general article, and in it, one of the general parts was abuse of a public animal.
Oh my goodness!
And I'm like, I want to get someone for that.
I want to party with you, dude.
Yeah, I know. So that wasn't the charge. I think it was disorderly. We got him on a disorderly. But didn't do that. I was like, oh, so close. But no, he just like
that thing.
Something stupid.
Yeah, that thing with you and that cow. I want to party with you, dude.
Yeah, exactly. That's why I was like, I want to be able to say I did.
Yeah.
It was crazy. So yeah, we ended up. Then we did a transition through the canal. So that was the Suez was pretty wild. I mean, man, there's a lot of times you're going through there, and it's almost like you're waiting for hear the metal screech.
Yeah.
trying to squeeze through there because the flight deck is over land on both sides. So you don't see water except the front and rear.
Yeah.
And you see a bunch of SA sixes and some other Russian style missile systems up there, and you're like, wow, that's kind of wild. Get to see them reasonably up close.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Not in a bad
Isn't
way.
it funny those little play toys pointed at the ship as you go through the canal?
Yeah.
Well, the other thing too is like there were some spots where like a lot of people gathered together and they're whistling at us. And we're like, oh, that's cool. And we're like, yeah, we're pumping our hands. And then we find out,
and then you find out that's not a good thing.
Yeah, the whistle is kind of the middle finger.
Yeah.
So we're like, oh, that wasn't so cool.
Oops.
Yeah.
And a few people, hitting golf balls off into the big sand trap there.
Good.
So that was wild going through the Suez at interesting times, and then made it up into the Gulf, and we did Operation Southern Watch. So that was mostly no-fly zone stuff, and just watching them. They had the B&B shuttle that Saddam had going, so that was a passenger jet that he would pick up from Baghdad, and at basically gunpoint they would grab civilians and make them go on a flight. And they would take it from Baghdad down to Basra, and they had to cross the 30th, the no-fly zone, and they would try to make it look like it was, a military jet, but we knew what it was, so we would just watch it and let it go. But he would do that and just keep flying it to try to get us to shoot it down.
Wow!
All these civilians got killed by the U.S. We didn't fall for it, and then they would kind of also at the same time have one of their Sukhois or MiGs go airborne, and then come screaming at, kind of not right at us, but towards the no-fly zone, and then crank on a bunch of G's and turn back north just prior to getting to it. And we're we're like, come on, baby,
come on, one.
I just want to bring it.
Yeah, come on.
We never really got it, and then it never failed. It's like they knew our air plan, because we'd be. Then, all right, we're all done, roll out. We're calling Sabre, checking out. Sabre was something. They were the kind of the approach control going into the country that spoke very broken English. And like, what altitude do you want me on? Where? Try to sort it out. We would just deconflict on tag frequencies, but get in there, get in country. Then we'd leave, and then of course everybody, all their jets jump up and go airborne and start, hauling around, and some of them would cross the line of death there, and we're already heading back and couldn't do anything about it. But
well, this is post 9/11, pre 9/11, right? So we weren't filling the skies with Grumman Ironworks 24/7 at that point. So
this was just prior. This was 2000. So but we every time we'd be flying around country, we would go up and we did a lot of tarps runs. We'd be looking at so I did a lot of tarps flights. We had an incident with Combat Air Patrol and calls for fire, and we ended up dropping on some observers, and not us, but from our air wing. And so I had to fly out and do a bunch of tarps runs and photograph the area, and then we would also go look at some of their missile placements and their KS-60 guns, and take a look at those, and just taking pictures. TARP CD, I think, was just coming out, and I was the TARPS officer as well doing that. So, that was pretty cool. We were getting the TARP CD going, completely digital, so we could actually wire back to the ship. So that was pretty
That's
cool.
really cool.
What was that called? Fast, when you could like transmit it back, was called Fast something or other.
It was TARP CD, completely digital, and then I can't remember the data link that we were using. That was called Fast something. I can't remember what that was, but. And one of those tarps runs, we're taking pictures, and then we get lit up, and at the time we had enough of their radar system so badly damaged that they had to take just optical shots and just try ballistically to hit us. So we got shot at with surface to air missile, and so we're pumping out chaff. We had the bowl chaff now, which was awesome. That gear was bowl chaff and flares was amazing.
Describe bowl chaff. I'm not sure we've had that described on this show.
And also tarps, just in case there are people that aren't not.
The tarps was the tactical air reconnaissance pod system, and it had two cameras in it, the KA-58 and I can't remember, K-133. So one was like a horizon to horizon, sweeping left to right, and the other one was kind of looking forward, a little higher fidelity. and took good pictures. And
Yeah.
the wet film one was very good. And then when we went digital, the digital was really good. Obviously, it was a lot faster, and you could zoom in and do some really good recce reconnaissance stuff with that. So yeah, we were able to kind of locate a lot of their guns and stuff. Anytime they'd shoot at us, we knew where everything was, so we would get the coordinates, mensurated. So that's to get targeting quality coordinates, so that we could add them to a target deck. So anytime they shot at us, like when they shot at us that time, we would next day or two send a jet in and bomb it. So
yeah, there you go.
Take it out. You shoot at us, you die.
Yep, that's right.
that's typically what it. And here's an interesting fact too. A lot of times the KS-60 guns, so like the 4-barrel guns, I think 30 Mike, a lot of those were parked in like dudes' driveways. So Army guys, they be like, hey, you're parking this sucker in your driveway, and so we take one of them out. It's taking down a neighborhood, but they're putting them.
Yeah, that's what they asked for. So they're basically saying call for fire on my placement. So there it is.
That's exactly right.
Yeah.
So about bull chaff.
What's that?
Bull chaff.
Yeah, the bull. I can't remember what it stands for.
I don't remember what it stands for either, actually. Well, obviously, chaff is chaff. Bull is like bundled something. I don't remember.
Yeah, I can't remember what it stands for. So the bull chaff and flares, they were things. They ended up. So we had the regular flares underneath the beaver tail between the two engines, buckets, so we had the two buckets. One would be flares, one would be chaff. So very limited. I can't remember what we had, like 16.
Do you remember, Ray, how many that was?
Yeah, I don't recall, but it was that. I'm trying to put the image in my head.
I got my tactical manual here, so
there you go.
Pull that up.
I seem to recall it being 25, like a little 5x5 matrix, or maybe 30, something like that. But it
might have been 5x5. I can't remember if it was 4x4 or 5x5, but I'll have to look that up, see if it's in. But anyway, it was pretty limited, and the different radars that we had to fight against, the chaff would be basically little strips of aluminum fiber cut at half the wavelength, and that would jam it. So there would probably be like three different lengths packed into a canister each shot that we would have, and that would kind of hit three different frequencies. That was typical of what we were concerned about. And you'd pump them out, and it would do all right. The key thing was to get it to really blossom, to get that chaff bundle to open up
on the aircraft for it to be able to really do that.
Yeah, and just get something out there and get it to open up quickly. But the bull chaff, then they put these rails on where the AIM-9 went, and so the AIM-9 would be pushed out a little further and mounted to this bull chaff rail.
Oh, they were only like this big, right? As I recall, they were pretty narrow. I mean, it was a little bit further, but they were only kind of what?
Yeah, 6, it wasn't very big. It was like basically a little kind of square piece that was plastic and had like a plastic coating on top of it. And then it had a whole bunch of different fibers in there. So lots of different wavelengths that they could pack in there. And it was only about this thick. And I think you could pack 144 of them into the rail. So you had 144 shots of pumping chaff out. And because of the placement now under the shoulders, you pump that out, and it would kick like I think about 4 of those out at a time, and it would shred it as it was going out. And then because it was going past your jet blast, it would blossom beautifully. And that chaff worked. It was incredible. So
and they even had Bull IR later. I don't know if you ever flew with Bull IR.
Yeah, we had the Bull IR as well. So on the I think one side we'd have the flares, and the other side we would have the chaff. And the Bull IR was amazing because you couldn't see it. Like the flares you could see, they pop out, they were visible. But the Bull IR one worked amazing. It really, the seekers would definitely buy off on that. And it was IR, so you couldn't see it. So you weren't marking yourself if you were popping flares, and your adversary lost sight. So loved that gear. So yeah, we had those going when we were doing our SAM weave and got lit up, and we're pumping that stuff out. And we're getting ready to pop the tanks off, and we lost lock, so the raw gear radar warning receiver stopped screaming at us, and then it lit up again, and so we're getting low on energy and starting to get lower in altitude and back into the SAM weave, pumping the stuff out, and then we're just ended up not punching everything off, but we were close. And
looks like I looked it up. It looks like it shows that there's 2 boxes and a maximum of 30 shafts or flares or jammers divided into 2 sections.
Yeah.
Yep.
That sounds about right. That's 6x5 then, yeah.
Yeah, you really had to be very judicious about your use. I remember when we were going through the RAG, it was like, use them sparingly because you don't want to stop.
Yeah, you kind of almost had to look and you'd make sure that they were shooting at you. You wanted to get eyes on the missile and then start pumping stuff out. With the bolt shaft, man, it was just, I'm just hitting that sucker. I was on the Jesus handle, and we had right there, and I'm just pumping.
Like we had different programs too, as I recall. I should probably not acknowledge this because I don't remember most of the details, but I was the countermeasures officer. We all had a SME. We were a SME of something. Everyone in the squadron was a subject matter expert for something, and one of mine was the countermeasure. I actually don't remember most of the details about it, and of course I can't actually look at it anymore because it was classified. But I do recall we had like different programs. One was like the pure IR, one was like the unknown, one was like the SA6/SA20 program. Right. It was good stuff. And Bowl was super flexible like that, and you could really tailor your response to what. I mean, it would be like a certain number and then a pause and a certain number. And it was really pretty highfalutin. It was pretty nice.
Yeah, it was pretty epic. I'm trying to remember. I think like pumping up was flare and down was chaff. And when we got the Bowl, you could have different programs, and so you could get both going out. So you just go up. I think you could have chaff and flare coming out.
Okay, so not to go totally Hollywood here, but talk about the movie that just came out, a couple months ago. I was decently impressed that they showed, what's his name, the guy that jumped in the backseat like he was a Rio. Rooster, there you go. Rooster actually hitting the coolie hat and doing the right motion. But I'm really wondering how would he know to do that because he had never seen a Tomcat before. It would apparently, so it's like he just instinctively knew. Oh, obviously, this is countermeasures.
Yeah, so I don't know. So the advisor for that was Yank Cummins.
Yeah.
And he was actually the OPSO at the RAG right after our
that's right.
Incident.
I remember him being there. Yeah.
So great dude. He and Puck Howe would go at it in the ready room all the time, and it was hilarious. I mean, they would just go at it, and it was a comedy show every time. And they were both just hardcore Tomcat guys, and so Yank was a great dude to have as an advisor for Maverick. And so there was a lot of inside Tomcat jokes in that movie. I mean, it did say in English what was where if it wasn't rubbed off. So
I mean, those jets are 40-something years old, so chances are low. But
it's probably rubbed off. So that's a great question. How would he have known that to reach there and pop them out? That's
it's in a different place in the Super Hornet. So
exactly. Because we had Hotaz in the Super Hornet, so
he just remembered from when his dad was flying when he was like 3 years old.
Right, exactly.
Goose.
I don't know.
Well, we could obviously. I mean, this is the Tomcat show. We could obviously go on talking about Tomcats forever, but I do want to get to the rest of your career, and of course to the rest of our guests also a little bit. So tell us just in a kind of quick summation where you went from there, where the Navy took you, that kind of stuff. Where did you obviously we didn't fly Tomcats forever because they're not still flying. So where'd you go from there?
I wish. Yeah, so I did get to be JDAM officer, and I prepped the squadron for the next cruise. That was a good northern watch, and then they did a lot of support to the SEALs, did a lot of JDAM dropping, a lot of LGB dropping, a lot of show of force. So I was really bummed. I was begging to extend for that cruise. I made all of workups, and I was like, I am ready. Like I actually want to go on cruise. Workups sucked.
I mean, that's
easy. That's the fun part.
Yeah.
Plus,
what year was that, Suede?
That was like 2000, late 2001, I think. Getting into
I was with SEAL Team 3 in Iraq in 2004.
Okay.
And we had CAS. We had close air support from Tomcats all the time.
Yeah.
And it was phenomenal.
Yeah. I remember, a lot of my buddies, they were, JTAC, or they were close air support qualled in the Tomcats. They were FAC A's, and yeah, they'd work with the SEALs a lot, and a lot of times just coming in fast over the deck and just booming would keep the dudes' heads down, that the SEALs could then pop up and just, just get some good positions, take care of business.
I was telling Siphon the other day, whenever we had a FAC A controller, he was trying to figure out, we had a Tomcat on station. That'd be the first jet to call in. Didn't matter what altitude that Tomcat would be the first one to come in. Anything else was and also ran. So
yeah. I was bummed. I really want to make that cruise. Plus, I was the only guy that knew Unix operating system, computer system, and because of grad school. So, I was the only one that would program the JDAMs, and so I had to teach like 3 other dudes how to do that right before I left. And I was looking at going to VX9 out to Point Magoo, keep flying the Tomcats, go to the Vampires, or the other guys 11. And anyway, when I went there, we just kind of saw the hood, like drove around. I'm like, I'm not bringing my family out here. It looked kind of a little ghetto. I didn't see the rest of that area, the Oxnard area, which is just gorgeous. I mean, it's so beautiful out there, but it's not just the hood. So I'm kind of bummed. So that kind of talked me out of going there. So I was like, well, I want to go back to Pensacola. We got a lot of friends there still. And so I went down to be a strike fighter instructor down there, and our paths crossed again.
Yes, they did.
That was pretty
awesome.
Amazing. We each had our first at that point, so we had our girls there to cause trouble together.
It was pretty awesome.
Yeah, so that was good times. We went down there
in Pensacola. Was that 86?
Yeah, VT-86.
Oh wow, yeah, okay.
Yeah, so that was cool. My claim to fame there. By the time I got down there, I'd was instructor doing a lot of the just strike fighter syllabus. And I became the standards instructor. So, we're required for stand to make sure all the instructors are kind of doing everything the same way, talking about, hey, what typical things we're seeing from students, how do we correct it? And then, making sure grading is as standardized as possible. And, we try to bring a lot of the concepts we learned from Top Gun of trying to make things as standardized as possible. And from
that's not the movie, but the actual Top Gun organization.
Yes,
yeah. Oh, is there such a thing?
There's a real command.
Oh wow, there's a real thing named Top Gun. Wow, I never knew.
Yeah. So we would anyway. So trying to do that, and then I got a kind of a ride. I set up with an F-15 guy there. Clark was I can't remember his call sign. Anyway, my victory there, I wanted him to get as much Navy speak as possible. And this Air Force guy, and it was funny because, there were so many Navy guys that a lot of the Air Force guys, after they left VT-86, they had to send them to like a reblew. That's what they make them Air Force again.
Get all that Navy out of them.
Exactly. It's
they had seen the light, and they're like, "Oh, you gotta take it."
Yeah, exactly.
So I set something up. We got out to Lemoore, got Super Hornet flights, and I was pretty impressed, with the new radar and the slow flight capability. That thing was really quite good, slow flight. Not like the Tomcat. Tomcat needed speed. The Super Hornet can kind of do anything at almost any speed, so it's kind of
and digital flight controls didn't hurt either.
Yeah, all the digital stuff and the radar and the SA and the toys that they had. I'm like, wow. This is very different. There is no pulse mode, so no low PRF type stuff. It's pretty much all medium and high PRF on the radar, pulse repetition frequency on the radar. So I got back to Pensacola, and then Clark got me a ride in a Strike Eagle. So we went up to Seymour Johnson, got those, and he, he's got a bunch of his squadron buddies, and he's like, "Hey, I got to go hit the head," and he's talking Navy talk, and his buddies just lost it on him. He was so mad when we got back. I'm like, "Dude, victory! I got you talking." And he was kind of distraught. So he was pretty angry for the rest of his time at 86. But nonetheless, we get back to Pensacola, and I'm like, this syllabus is 60, from the 60s, teaching dudes how to fly AUG 10s, which was in the F4, and then the AUG 9 in the Tomcat. And that was the wrapper of the syllabus. So I kind of restructured the syllabus pretty significantly, and it pretty much has stayed in place still today. They've added a few things. They've replaced the T-39, which had the F-16's radar in that. I think it was the APG 61N, I think it was.
That sounds about right.
So they replaced it with a T2, or I'm sorry, the T-45 with a system that that I actually tested when I did my test tour. And what do they call that? It's basically a data link between the T-45s, and it simulates an air-to-air or air-to-ground radar.
It's like synthetic radar, basically what we had in the simulators.
Yes. Yeah. It was just data link, and they would tell each other, but it would act like a radar, and it would look a lot like the APG 73. So it operated just like that. And the T-45. Fast forward in my career, I went to test pilot school, and then went to VX-23, and then we did a lot of testing. I was the department head for the T-45, which was awesome for a Rio/Wizzo now, because it had dual controls, and I had my pilot's license, so I got to do a lot of flying. So I got a lot of stick time. A lot, when all the Super Hornets had dual controls, so a lot of time.
FTs mostly.
Yeah, most of the time, as soon as gear were up, I'm on the controls, and I did most of the flying on a lot of those flights, which was pretty awesome. I got to do a lot of formation flying and clean and dries.
Oh, cool.
At VT-86, I was able to renovate, and I was surprised because I didn't have to go through all the Sinatra rigmarole that they had to do just a few years later to change some of the other syllabus aspects. So I was, given carte blanche from Borrelli, Marine Corps F-18 guy. Two of my best COs actually were Marines. Him and Hayes Gray at VX-23. He was a Harrier guy. Anyway, great dudes. But he gave me a lot of berth, and I became a stage manager for Strike Fighter and let me kind of renovate the syllabus there. Went from there to CVW2 out in Lemoore. That was my career goal, was to never get stationed in Lemoore. I did the center in Lemoore when we got to the RAG. I'm like, I don't want to ever come back here again. But I got CAG staff, so couldn't really argue with that. Went to Lemoore. It was actually great. They say you cry when you get there and you cry when you leave. And it's pretty true. I mean, great friends, still close with a lot of buds from there. So it was good tour. My son was born there. I was on CAG staff. I got my JTAC qual there. I was supposed to deploy.
You were wing ops, is that right, or no?
Yeah, I was CAG in CAG ops, and we did airplan writing, and I was also the kind of the air wing fueling SME. So we would kind of keep track of how to best use fuel and how often to fuel and how much fuel are we going through. So that was interesting. Looking at ways to try to optimize that, and then flew a lot with now VF-A2. Some great dudes. Most of them were Tomcat guys, so it was still a good squadron, even though they were flying the wrong jet. So that was a lot of fun.
The bullets were flying plastic, but anyway.
Yeah. Unfortunately.
Hey, Sway, did you stay in 20? Did you do your 20?
Yeah, I ended up doing 25.
25. Yeah. That's awesome. That's awesome. God bless you, brother.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, it was fun. Each tour is more fun. I mean, I missed flying the Tomcat. I, went from CAG staff. Everyone on CAG staff at CAG 2 at the time, including CAG, they were all test pilot school grads. So they were feeding me the propaganda day and night. And so I was like, all right. So I transitioned to AEDO. Got tired of going on cruise, and my kids
air
now.
Engineering duty officer, by the way.
Yeah, we got to throw those in every now and then.
Yep. So I was like, all right, well, I was already pinned on 04, so I was a lick doctor, lieutenant commander, and I was like, well, the only way to go to test pilot school at that point was to be an AEDO. You could still go in, otherwise, if you're still fleet, lieutenant was as senior as you could be. So transition to AEDO, applied to test pilot school, got in there, went to test pilot school. It was actually great. I mean, I got to fly a ton of stuff, like 20 different aircraft. While I was on CAG staff, I did get some Prowler flights. I got to fly some H-60s. So I got stick time on that. And man, like the closest, I would challenge dudes. I would say, I will buy you a case of your favorite beer if you can either make me pass out or make me puke. Standing bet. I was like, do your worst, bring it.
Yeah.
And,
Never worked, right?
yeah, it never worked.
Nah.
No, I never had to pay up. So, but when the first time I hovered in a helicopter, I almost puked. I was like, this is not right. You are not supposed to be flying and standing still. It was just weird, but
yeah,
got to fly in the E2 as well. So I got, good little bit of everything in the air wing.
Nice.
And then yeah, went to test pilot school. That was phenomenal. Actually, I did a quick tour at PMA. I think it was 281. So they're the folks that bring you the flight planning software that the Navy uses now. So a jet won't fly unless you use this software. So you're not flying a jet anymore. You're flying a computer. It requires this software.
Yeah.
The jet won't even start up without it. So
wow.
Yeah, I went there, then went to test pilot school, went to VX-23, got to fly Hornets, Super Hornets, and then T-45 department head, that was just like having my own flying club.
Fuels paid for, jets paid for, go.
Yeah.
I got a ton of flying in, did a lot of instrument approach. I should have gotten my instrument rating out of that, but the pilots I was flying with didn't have their FAA CFII, their certified flight instructor instrument. And then when I was there, I was looking for what the next thing was. I was trying to figure out how to stay in the cockpit. And then one of my predecessors at VX-23 was now up at the National Reconnaissance Office doing spooky stuff. And in this thing that the Navy has called Space Cadre. So he gave me the secret handshake. Turns out my graduate degree was good for something. And so I sent in my resume there and my the courses that I took, and the Space Cadre accepted me into that. And so I went to Naval Postgraduate School to be the Space Systems class officer, basically program officer, responsible for the curricula that they do there and answering to our admiral sponsors to make sure we're providing the education that they need for their various, for like SPAY War and the various locations that folks would be detailed to. So that was Space Systems Operations for people going to like NAVSOC, the Navy Satellite Operations Center, and then Space Systems Engineering for people that would be going to like the NRO. And so that was great. Got to work with a bunch of astronauts, great dudes. A lot of cool stories. One of them was a Tomcat guy.
Yep.
And then from there I was planning on going to be XO at VX-31 with a good buddy of mine, Magic Boost. Don't hate him too much. He was a Hornet guy, but great dude and CAG paddle. So really don't hate on him. But so I was going to go be XO down there in China Lake. By the way, there's no Chinese and there's no lake.
There's no lake. Yeah.
And my wife, I made the mistake. I took my wife there to visit with me, and they were good friends of ours from Lemoore, and she was like, "This place is terrible. It is terrible." And I was like, "Well, let's go. We'll go there. I'll be XO. The flying's great." She's like, "I don't fly and I don't care." So I got offered a job in San Diego at SPAY War, and she's like, "You what's it going to be?" She said, "If you go to China Lake, I'm not going." So we went to San Diego, lived on Coronado, which was pretty epic.
Yep.
A lot of our friends, a lot of our neighbors were actually extras in Maverick, and kind of watched them build up the O Club there that they made, and right there next to BOQ there, or to the Navy Lodge. So yeah, that was epic. And then I did end up at the Naval or National Reconnaissance Office doing a bunch of spooky stuff. Did that for actually extended, and put in my don't pick me letter. I decided I didn't want to go 06 because they were probably going to send me to the Pentagon, and in 06 the Pentagon is terrible. So I deployed one last time. I deployed to Bahrain, to Fifth Fleet and CENTCOM, supporting special operations and naval operations and theater as the National Reconnaissance Office space me. So I got to do a lot of spooky stuff there. So that was pretty cool. and did some really good work, and then came back and retired, and now I launch rockets.
There it is. It's a pretty epic career. Basically, higher and higher and higher, and faster and faster and faster. So that's pretty good progression.
Altitude got better, but yeah, I'll still say flying the Tomcat was definitely the hallmark. That was, I think I got in my logbook almost 30 different types of flight vehicles, from gliders to all kinds of B-25. Got to fly B-25. That was cool.
Oh wow!
But of all of them, the de Havilland was one of my favorites. The de Havilland Beaver, super fun airplane. And then that F-14 still is the tops. Flew 16s, F-15s, pretty much all the Hornet variants, and yeah, the Tomcat still. That's like your 70s muscle car. Of jets, and just feeling it. There's nothing like just getting supersonic level on the deck quickly and just feeling that push, when you go firewall with the throttles, and it doesn't ever let up. It won't let up until you run out of gas.
Yeah, in about 20 minutes if you do it for very long. But yeah,
rumor has it that you wear a blue suit these days. Can you talk about what you're doing right now? I hear there's a lot of good stuff going on with the kids, and some good leadership right now in your post career.
Your cap stuff.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. So right before I deployed, my son got interested. I've taken him flying a few times. Like when we lived in San Diego, I was in the one of the flying clubs there, and used to fly up. Like my job would take me up to Point Magoo to NAVSOC, so I could sit 5 hours in a car, drive through LA and hate myself, or I could rent a plane, and it was 1 hour chocks to chocks. So I'd fly up there. That was awesome. And I would laugh, like giggle to myself as I'm flying over LA, looking at the track. But yeah,
giggle my ass off.
Look to be you. So yeah, I took my son flying. He didn't have the bug. I think most of us that fly, the first time you're in an aircraft, it, right? That's it. Game over.
Yeah.
He didn't really get that, but right before I deployed, he's wanted to join Civil Air Patrol, and so all right, we go check it out, and did our 3 meetings, and he joined, and they're of course they're recruiting adults. They need senior members to just corral the youngsters, and then I guess with my resume they were like, wait, what? Like how about we need a new commander, because the commander he was extended. He can do 3 years. He can extend to a 4th year. He was going into his 4th year. I was like, I'm getting ready to deploy. So I'm not going to be around. So I deployed, came back, and then joined Civil Air Patrol. The nice thing with that is if you have military experience, you can cross over with the rank that your terminal rank, if you're an officer, up to 05. So, I became a lieutenant colonel in the Civil Air Patrol, and then became their squadron commander of the Mustang Squadron.
Funny.
And a lot of great experience. The cadets.
Wait, I'm part of Sea Cadets, which is your Navy equivalent.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I looked at Sea Cadets. They meet nearby, but it's a little tough because they meet like for a weekend, kind of Friday to Sunday, and I just can't spare a whole weekend. But one night a week, Wednesday nights, I could do that. So
plus Colorado, not a lot of ocean.
Not a lot of ocean, but Sea Cadets does some really cool stuff. They do stuff with the SEALs and other things.
Are you in Colorado, Swede?
Yeah, I'm in Denver.
I'm one state above you.
All right, in Wyoming.
Yes, sir.
Right on. Nice. That's a beautiful area. Nice. So yeah, I wanted to kind of do the Sea Cadets because I already got all the uniforms, and so I had to buy the blues, put them on, broke out in hives.
Oh. Yeah.
So, got the cream, still had hives.
Yeah, so that finally, it healed after a bit, but with the cadets,
I love my son a lot, and he's really big in Civil Air Patrol, but it's like I haven't been able to take that step yet.
It was tough. It was definitely tough, but they're very aviation focused, which was cool. So they
are good guys.
The blues on, but I give them Navy every Wednesday. They get a lot of Navy.
Yeah, good for you. Good for you.
So I got.
Wait, I wore my flight jacket down to when Navy played Air Force.
Yeah.
And several guys stopped me and go, "Hey, are you Air Force?" I said, "No, we're real fighter squadrons." And he goes, "How's that?" I said, well, if you flare to land, you squat to pee. And he goes, That's a good one. That's a good one.
We use that one a lot.
Yeah.
Well, Swede, it's been awesome having you on here. Can you stick around for a little bit?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I appreciate it. You know, this is a great show. Recommend it to everyone. I'm, sharing it out. It's cool to reminisce and hear other dudes. You're like, oh, I forgot about that.
Yeah, it is.
So we hear that all the time, and honestly, that's why Smokehouse is back. That's why Rob's still with us. I mean, like, it's pretty cool. And we hear how many shows have we done, Lorenzo? I don't even know the number totally.
Somewhere around 18, 20 shows.
I'm thinking probably closer to 18. Yeah, and literally everyone says the same thing. It's pretty awesome to reconnect and hear it. So we appreciate you shared your story with us. Because it's a pretty good one, and of course, mine intersects with yours a little bit there, so that's pretty cool.
Yeah, we've crossed paths a bunch, which was awesome. You know, that's the best thing about the Navy is coming back and
it's like you never left. It's like you never left. You know, it's like your buddies all your whole lives, and if you haven't seen each other in 20 years.
Oh, it's awesome. Well, thanks for asking me on. I appreciate it.
Wow. All right. Well, that was an awesome show. It was awesome to have Swede on here and be able to get those details from his career. It is amazing to hear how the community went all the way to the end of the time. So it was great to have Swede here, and we'll close out the show here for this week, or this month, or this episode, and we'll actually do the rest of the show in our next episode.
Yeah, that sounds great. Yeah, that was pretty awesome. So yeah, I'm very excited to get the second part out to everybody. So
yes, thanks guys for listening.
Yeah, absolutely. Big gypsy roll of that. And, Swordsman, baby. Hope you guys appreciated the show. Great content tonight. Really was. Swede is an incredible guest. And I want to thank you, Siphon and Aaron and everybody else tonight. Just incredible. And you can find us on Instagram at IG with F-14 Tomcat. Find the official F-14 Tomcat radio show logo.
That's where it all started.
On YouTube at F-14 Calverton, all things Grumman. We have Discord as well, F-14 Tomcat. Find us on Facebook at the official F-14 Tomcat radio show. Our merch available is at goldleaderatx.com. We have an awesome merch line out. We have, my God, everything, t-shirts, stickers, patches. We got some great stuff. Really bring that naval aviation spirit back to life, honestly. But again, thank you, everybody. We hope you appreciate it. And looking forward to part 2 of this.
Yes.